It'll say live.
Oh,
And we're live. Uh-oh. Hi, guys. How are you? Thank you for joining Facebook Live. I am here with my, hold on just 1 second. All right, baby out of the way. Thanks for joining in. If you are watching this, I am here with my dear friend, Matt Rozensky. We are going to chat a little bit about Matt's yoga experience. Matt, will you tell everyone watching who you are?
My name is Matt Rozensky. I've lived in Jackson for quite a long time, be it intermittently. Dipped out for a couple of years at a time. Once in Ypsi, most recently in Detroit. I moved back here in about October. A lot of people may know me from a local band called Command Prompt. I've also worked at the brewery for a very long time.
What brewery?
Grand River, where I've been known to frequent. Yeah, but mostly I'm just a dude.
So I am excited. We've been talking to a lot of teachers on this, like off the mat chat or mat. What is it called? Off the mat chat. But I was excited to talk to you because you are. It's like the perspective of a student versus a teacher, which is sometimes a really refreshing look at the yoga or whatever, you know, the kind of the yoga scene or the yoga experience, if you will. You are practicing yogi. When did you start yoga?
So my very first time doing yoga, I was about 25. It was with you, actually.
Oh yeah.
I had ran into you at the Dark Horse 4 Elf party, and rather inebriated, you invited me to one of your yoga classes, or I was inebriated. You invited me to one of your yoga classes, and I was like, sure, yeah, that sounds great. Let's do it. And I committed to that, and well, it could have went a lot better.
Guys, so 4 Elf is a beer party, basically. It's a really raucous party at a brewery. So kind of catfish Matt into that one.
Yeah, so I went to that. It was one of the most intense physical experiences I've ever had. It by no means was enjoyable. I did not have a good time. I changed my opinion of you for a while. I was like, Kate is a nice lady. Why is she doing this to us? It was just brutal. And I would not.
Yoga class.
Yeah. And I would not get on a yoga mat again for almost 5 years after that.
What did you think yoga was? Well, I mean, what did you think was going to happen versus what happened?
That first time?
Yeah, yeah.
Huh. You know, I just went because I committed to it. And no, I think I knew, right, that I knew that I was out of shape, but so I knew it was going to be very physically demanding, and it turned out to be a lot more so than I had expected. I felt really good after, but not so good that I felt like ever doing yoga again, and I didn't think I would.
So you returned, you lightly scarred, but you came back.
Yeah.
Boy, tell me about that.
Well, it was just about this time last year, actually. I had gone to Movement Electronic Music Festival. I go every year. I had a very, very long weekend. It was by the end of it, I decided that I really needed to get healthy and make better life choices. And on the suggestion of our friend Justine, she said, hey, maybe you should go do yoga. And I told her, like, oh, hey, maybe not. But I did. I signed up for a 30-day membership at this place called the Royal Oak Yoga Shelter. And I went out of that 30-day unlimited membership. I probably went 26 or 27 out of the days. Just something to do. I was really bored living out there. So I think I went just to like have something to fill my time. And yeah, I think just going over and over again, I went just because it made me feel physically good. But then over time, I realized like lots of interesting, strange realizations were just kind of popping into my head. Like I just had all of these very unique revelations, if you will, about who I was, how I was living my life, things like that. And I want to say that like I was changed then and there, and I just started being a practicing yogi, but it kind of freaked me out. And I like after that 30 days was over, I like was like, man, I don't know what that was, but I need to like process.
Do you think that you did too much? Is there too much yoga physically that you can do you think?
Yes and no. Physically, I felt great. I mean, I was getting a little tired and exhausted. But I think if you jump into doing that much yoga so fast with very little experience, that you can become overwhelmed with the entire mental aspect of it. And I think I had a very, very Western sense of what yoga is, in that it was just like, oh, it's a good workout.
When did you make the discovery that yoga is not a work? Well, I mean, it is physically challenging, but as we like to say, yoga is a work in, not a work out. When did you realize that the practice went beyond the physical, when it like moves from the asana into the more internal practice?
You know, funny thing, I was at work in a restaurant, minding my own business, and I like dropped a pen. I went to go pick that pen up, and like kind of just got like slapped in the face with this like intense sense of like presence. I like felt the pen in my fingers and like was just like super involved in bending over and picking up that pen. Which in it sounds really mundane and boring, but I like stood up and like kind of shook, like came to. It was just like, man, what was that? Like that's never happened before. It was like really trippy and weird, and then little things like that just kind of kept happening. And I was like, it's got to be the yoga.
Did it make you? Did you feel like more of like when you say you were like in the presence, you're in the moment? Were you more aware of what you were doing, and instead of like just kind of going, you know what I mean? Just like doing the motions, picking up the things, just more aware of maybe like subtle things that were happening in the action of that? Not to put words in your mouth.
No. I mean, that's fairly accurate. That just like, I had never been so aware of my body before. Just feelings, sensations, just things you take for granted. I've just always kind of been so trapped in my head that I was not really paying attention half the time to how I was really physically feeling. It's always been very, I don't know, spacey. So the experience, yeah, just yoga made me a lot more physically aware, and the more and more I do it, the more I kind of realize the connection there.
Right.
Where beforehand it never really existed.
So there was no like, the union of that, or the way things are all intertwined.
Yeah, I was never aware of my body unless I was like in incredible pain.
I never laugh at that, but I just think of power yoga and um, we were talking earlier via text, and I said we would go make this show up organically, but I was like looking at it on my phone and like doing a little Google research, and it was Matt sent me earlier this video. It is so I forget the director, but as an adaptation of a William S. Burroughs, who is like a beat poet for anybody who doesn't really know, same era as like Allen Ginsberg. But the movement, he called it DE, right?
Yeah.
And what does DE stand for?
What was that?
What does DE stand for? I mean, I know, but tell everyone.
So DE stands for Do Easy. It's a philosophy, basically, that in everything you do, you should do it in the most quick and efficient and way, which is also tends to be the easiest. That sounds very simple, and it kind of is. And it kind of, how I see that relating to yoga is we walk around with a lot of thoughts and things that just don't serve us at all, that just make our life unnecessarily difficult for no reason. And they are such a part of our day to day that we don't really pay any attention to them at all. They're so quiet, or they've been there for so long that they just sink into the background. I found that yoga really brings those out, makes them louder. You're more aware of the thoughts you're having as you're having them.
Right. That's amazing. I think that's such a great realization. To a little bit about the video he's talking about, it's a short 9-minute video, I think, but it had like zoom ins of like someone lifting up a coffee cup and being so efficient with the way they set the coffee cup down and release the handle that it doesn't clatter, or like the way you, some of it was a little bit funny too, I think. But the way you zip the zipper and the way the fabric connects and the way the zipper zips becomes almost just in the way you said, almost like a trippy experience, but just a very like all encompassing mindful experience, right? Is that kind of what that, in comparison to yoga, it's the same idea, I think.
Yeah, more or less. And that's something that didn't really come to me until really when this pandemic happened.
Okay. Child. I'm waiting for her dad to come. This is a half naked child, so we're gonna hurry and get this out of here.
It happens.
Okay, wait, tell me what you just said again. The pandemic and
yeah, so you know, the biggest difference between, or you know, before the pandemic happened, I had always just gone to yoga classes. I had finally become a member of a studio in Chelsea that I really like called Breathe. I was going there quite religiously, 6-7 days a week, sometimes 15-day streak at one point. Like in my head, that's what yoga was. That's
the physical on your mat, do your down dog kind of thing.
And you go to class and you just push it, and it's about sitting your body. It's about pushing your body outside of its comfort zone. To that was my idea of what expanding your consciousness was through yoga. And I found out it took a pandemic and everything switching to online classes and not being surrounded by people physically and being all by myself, and that I started thinking a lot less hard about doing yoga correctly and just doing it for the heck of it.
Go ahead.
And it wasn't until I had like discovered this concept of do easy that one day I was in class and the teacher, which I'm sure she said this 1,000 times before, and I've heard it in every class and million different studios, to like not let your ego get in the way of a pose, and to only take what you need from it, and don't push yourself outside of your comfort zone just to do so, to just take what you need that day. And I never listened to them when they told me that. I made yoga so unnecessarily difficult for myself for no reason for almost an entire year. I had it was that very Western kind of exercise philosophy in my head, was that like, if you're not sweating, you're not doing it right. If you're not like if you're if you're not a second away from pulling something, you're not doing it right. And somewhere between learning about this do easy and hearing my teacher say that, it all just kind of clicked one day, and I never made yoga so difficult ever again. And I don't think I ever would have learned that in a classroom.
I think that's such an amazing revelation. It's something that I love the comparison. So when you're saying and do easy too, you're saying you just push yourself until you pull a hamstring or something, for example, like go. But
I really thought that's what yoga was.
I'm really glad that you, for everyone listening, I think this might be the mentality, or not the mentality, but this might be like the way others observe this as well. I don't think you're the only one who sees this. I think a lot of like what we see visually is that Western sense of yoga, where if you're not doing like handstands in lotus posture or something, then you're really not enlightened, or you're not really discovering your true self. But the idea of do easy, when you're doing things with efficiency and with a relaxed state of mind, to where everything is, I don't want to say perfected, but it just kind of all comes together. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. Do you know the Yoga Sutra? It's Stereo Sukha Asanam, which is the balance of softness and strength. I feel like that comes into that do easy, to where if you're strong and efficient, but then you find that relaxed space in it, is where that's kind of that sweet spot of yoga, mentally, physically, I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I think you kind of nailed it there.
Guys, if you just saw that video that pulled up, watch that video. It's wonderful. I'm really glad you shared that with me.
If you have nothing to do for 9 minutes, totally recommend it. It might not seem like it's about yoga at all. It's a little out there, but it totally is.
They'll get it. And if that sense of Western yoga is kind of clouding other people's minds, I think it's important to let them know that it is like you said, not just a physical practice. There's 8 limbs of yoga, guys. It's pretty deep.
Right. Now that I've learned how to not make asana so unnecessarily difficult, now I can finally start exploring these 7 limbs, and that's been insane. I feel like it took a year to even realize that there were 7 other limbs.
So asana is the tip of the iceberg, right? So we can get even deeper. I think one of the more, like, pranayama, right, is another limb. So I think that one is a little more well known as well. But that might be like, that's still the scratching of the surface. Mm-hmm. So I want to talk a little bit about, we were talking again off screen or on the phone, just in our own friendship, about how once this, I'm going to call it do easy. Once this do easy mentality, because it's a very Zen philosophy, right? It's a very Zen, it embodies mindfulness in everything, which is kind of played out into your musical career. So you're in a band called Command Prompt. I got it earlier. How does the mindfulness and the awareness in the moment kind of transfer into your music, or how has that changed it, if any?
Well, command prompt existed before yoga. We've been a thing for about almost 3 years now. We've always been a completely 100% improvised techno jam band, if you will. I use a variety of electronics. I'm basically the drummer of a techno band, if you will. But we don't prepare anything ahead of time. Everything is completely stream of consciousness. And we don't, in order to do what we do well, there's really no choice but to kind of embrace the do easy philosophy, because generally when we think about it too hard, oh God, you pulled up the Instagram.
Matt's a really creative genius as far as really humorous marketing, and it's very intellectual as well as humorous. Check it out. You know it is.
Yeah. Every time I run into people and they find out I'm in that band, they're like, "Who the hell runs your Instagram?" Like,
I have no idea.
A third-party marketing company. I don't know.
So yeah. So Matt is a creative genius in marketing as well. So you're saying the stream of consciousness, if you try to force it, if you were to pre-plan it, would this not work out the same way that your band is meant to be, kind of?
Yeah, we practice a lot. We haven't because of pandemic, and I miss you guys if you're watching.
You guys are wonderful. We love you all.
We've done it a while, and we find that whenever we think about it, the magic is gone. We completely derail. It took us over a year of playing to like start consistently just pumping out good improvised music. And we've just there's just no thinking, it's only doing. That is when the coolest stuff happens, I guess. It didn't know it at the time, but it's become a very Zen thing. It's almost very, very yoga thing.
Yes, and that I think that's so important to say, because yoga, again, sorry, I'm looking at my charger's not about to turn off here. But yoga is not just like you were saying, not the down dog. It is the union, and it's that like it's just the combination of everything into everything that you do, into your life experience, because it's not an external thing. It's an internal embodiment of that union, or that yoga together. So
yeah, I found I think if you're just recently gotten into yoga and you're wondering if you're experiencing the mental effects yet, if you're start to see regular, mundane, boring daily tasks as a lot like yoga, then you're totally doing it right.
Yes, you're on track.
Experiences where I've been like cooking eggs, and I'd be like, wow, cooking eggs is a lot like yoga, and then I like stop and like, who the hell am I? What is this?
It's so true. Making a sandwich, it's very true. I love that. My teacher, Ave, at Studio Deeply Art, says that a lot. She gets very excited if you know Ave. She's a very lively person, and she mentions that a lot, just because she's an artist, and in her paintings and like all of that, it's the excitement in everything, and just the presence and awareness, which makes it that way. It's pretty wild once you start to realize it, or once you start to continually feel that. Can you hear my kids yelling? Sorry.
Oh, of course.
Yeah. Oh, and she also said she's also one that really comes in on the, not backtrack, but she'll always say, there is no need to struggle in your practice. Why are you struggling? Like, do you know what I mean? And I think obviously you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it doesn't have to be a struggle. And I think that's awesome that it plays out in real life off the mat as well. Matt, do you have, I think, guys, if anybody has any questions for Matt about music, about this DE video or do easy concept, let us know. Do you have anything else you want to say? How's that Manduka mat working out for you?
Really well. If you would have told me a year ago that I was going to spend $115 on a yoga mat, I wouldn't have believed you. If you would have told me that 3 months ago, I probably wouldn't have believed you. It is worth every penny.
Good. Yeah. I really think they're the best mat. Matt. they're wonderful. Do you have anything else you want to tell? We have viewers. Andrew says we have viewers. So if there's anything else you want to drop into this conversation really quick before we say goodbye, what would you say to people? Oh, wait, no, I'm going to ask you a question to wrap it up. If people are curious about the practice and they are just kind of diving into it, but they have, again, that thought that it's just that scary, physical, upside down, twisty space, what would you say to them?
I would tell them it's not. And that's exactly what a lot of my good yoga friends told me, and I didn't believe them. You're really just going to have to go do it for yourself. I would say a really important thing is to don't form any strong opinion about what yoga is until you've done it several dozen times. And although I wouldn't recommend maybe going as hard as I did starting off, I think doing it at least 3 or 4 days a week could really help to experience the mental effects of it. Otherwise, maybe once a week you'll feel better physically, but you might not experience the mental effects. And yoga is 98% mental. So.
Yes, yes. Oh, thank you, Matt, for talking, guys. Thank you so much for joining in and listening to this conversation with Matt. I feel like this sort of, to wrap up this conversation, this is yoga beyond asana here. So the depth of the practice in a pretty fresh student here. So thank you for sharing that with everybody. And thank you
for giving me the opportunity to.
Yeah, it was so great to see you. And I can't wait to see you in real life, whether it is in a studio or just hanging out at Ironbark.
Cool. Well, thank you.
All right, guys, thank you for listening and thank you for joining us. I hope to see you again next time. Bye.